What I'm mostly embarrassed about is actually not the amount of yarn. This is like half of my yarn, and I feel like a lot of people, they have a lot more yarn lying around. Collecting yarn is not necessarily a bad thing. Someone once told me that buying yarn and knitting yarn is two completely different hobbies. I think the same person told me that someone who collects something believes in the future. I've bought yarn since I started knitting more than 10 years ago, and now I'm a little embarrassed at the amount of projects and balls of yarn I have taking up space in boxes or just lying around. I needed a sort of plan to work through the stash in a way where it made me fall in love with the yarn again, like I'd been when I bought the yarn. So last year I was given the book A Knitting Life, Volume 2 by Marianne Isager for Christmas, and I just really loved it. The patterns are unique and very well thought out. She's a very experienced knitting designer. So I thought many of the patterns would be great for using leftover yarns, where it's like 1 or 2 balls of a quality. I've decided that I'm going to knit my way through this book in 2025. It's got 16 projects and most of them are sweaters. I have 3 rules. The first rule is that I can decide to not do up to 2 projects. So, the rule is I only have to do 14 projects in total. Rule number 2 is that I can't buy any new yarn, I have to only use my stash. And rule number 3, I forgot. I'm back. So, rule number 3 is that I can change the pattern however much I want. So, for instance, I can make a sweater into a vest if I feel like that's better. I can change the gauge, I can change the look of the neckline, I can change whatever I want. There are no limits. But the pattern that I choose is the one that I work from. Hi, welcome to Loop Tales. I'm Sissel, and we're standing in the middle of some of my part of my yarn stash. I need to sort out what is what, and I need to put everything that is merino in one box and everything that is cotton in another box, and try to just sort out what is what. The book that I am knitting my way through is here, the A Knitting Life book. And just to know what, I need to know what yarn I can use for what patterns and put it in some kind of order. So I'm figuring out what is what. For instance, like here I have 1.5 ball of alpaca wool from Sandnes, a sweater that I did once. So that needs to be put in one place, and then I have some old swatches that I have absolutely no use for. I think I have a box of swatches only, which I don't know, I might unravel or I might just donate. I think I'll do a big bag of stuff that needs to just be donated. I don't know if I'm the only person that sometimes orders something and starts knitting, and then I regret my choice of yarn because of the quality or whatever. And if I don't it's not like I jump from a project just because it feels a bit iffy, but sometimes it just works against you. Like I've also tried knitting in some sort of cotton wool where it just hurt my hands, and then I'll stop doing it, donate it, or sell it. It's actually quite fun to see some of it. Some of it I forgot I had. It sounds so spoiled to have yarn that you forget you had, but I think it's more a matter of me, when I finish a project, even if I only have like a very small amount of yarn left like this, I save it. And even small scraps like this is just cut-offs from weaving ends. I save it. So I both have like a yarn where there's enough for a whole sweater, and then I have a lot of these 1.5, half a ball, 1 ball of yarn, and then these projects that just ended up in one of these boxes. As I said, I am knitting my way through this book and trying to get some good use out of all my out of my stash. And I have already knitted one of the patterns, or finished one. It's the Shoowa Sweater, which I made into a vest instead. So I can just show it to you. It's a bit big on me. After I washed it, it became like 5 centimeters longer and a bit wider too. I think I need to redo the ribbing. The arm opening, I think it's a little too loose, or I might just gift it to someone who like it. Let's just try and move some of these boxes so that you can actually. I'm hoping that I can sort it out in a way where it becomes really attractive to pick up a yarn and get started. I mean, having an old project like this where this was just a project that I came up with myself, but where the calculations were all wrong. Like this does not say pick me up and knit me. Neither does some of this. Anyway, I was talking about this vest. These boxes are not very beautiful, but they are very good when you're scared of moths like me. I have these little bags of that smell like cedar wood that I put in these boxes as well, because if you ever tried having moths, it's not fun. I tried it once. It was not in my yarn, but in my closet, and I don't even know if they had done any actual harm. I just saw one flying out, and I just went. I panicked, put everything in the freezer. There we are. Anyway, so this is the vest. It's a little loose. It's made up of these squares, as you can see. And you don't, like for a blanket where you knit one square at a time, the process is it's knitted bottom up, and then you actually knit the whole thing like in one take. So I can't remember if the pattern actually says to knit it in the round. Let's see. Yeah, so it's just knitted in like one piece, and you knit from the bottom up. And it was a really fun project to do, because you knit one triangle or one square at a time, and then you finish it and you get started on the next one. So it's really easy to see how far you've come. And it's I felt like it was easier to put together scrap yarn in smaller squares at a time. I've done scrap projects before where I haven't been happy with the result at all, because either it was too many different colors or too few. I think Baga is really good at putting colors together, but doing one square at a time, I felt like it was easier also to just unravel one square and do it over. So some of them are darker and some of them are lighter. Anyway, it was a really fun process, and I changed the upper part a bit to make it a vest instead of a sweater. I can show you the sweater, it's here. But I can recommend this pattern a lot. I think the process was really fun, and it looked a lot more difficult than it actually was. It is just knit and purl, and then just picking colors. The pattern has these, where this upper part, where the squares in the squares are yellow. So you could do that too. Just pick one color. Could do them striped as well. Anyway, I thought the process was really fun. Now I'm working on the let's see, what's it called? The Taquile Sweater. Taquile. It has this colorwork, stranded colorwork in 2 colors. So I thought I would use a lot of the dark leftover yarn that I have, and then I had a good amount of green yarn lying around, and so that is this one. I guess I could actually try it on. Yeah, I'm not doing, the pattern asks for quite a few decreases on the sleeves, you can kind of tell, but I'm not doing those. I like oversized sleeves better, or just a bit. I don't like them to be tight on my arms. And then instead of doing 4 panels of patterns, 4 here, I only did 3 because the gauge changed quite a bit, because I had many different kinds of yarn, and then the green here is mix of, I think it's 1 thread of alpaca and 1 of wool, and then down here it's 1 mohair as well. So yeah, I just used a lot of my dark leftover yarns for the background, and I quite like the length. This is also knitted bottom up. I don't prefer that. I prefer to knit it top down, because then I can try it on. I feel like it's more difficult to change the body if you've finished the body, I guess. But then if I knit sweaters bottom up, I never knit the ribbing until last. So I added this one because it has a slightly different shade than some of these other ones, but I think it looks okay. And then I tried to incorporate this purple leftover yarn, and I'm a bit undecisive of what I think about it. It's gonna be a really warm sweater, which I'm happy about, because I'm a person who's often really cold or freezing. There's a lot. It's a very busy sweater, pattern-wise. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna be wearing it to the office, but I might, because actually sometimes it's really cold there too. But anyway, I'm getting some good use out of yarns that I didn't like or was just sitting in my storage, which I'm really happy about, since my plan is to not buy any new yarn this year. I'm just gonna take this off. The pattern is, it says to knit back and forth instead of doing steeking, but I prefer to steek, so just I keep knitting in the round as I go up, and also for the neckline, and then I just cut and sew. I feel like I get a lot more even knitting surface, and it's just faster too. So the steek part is on the inside. I feel like it's kind of pretty too, but guess I'm the only one who's going to see it. So I did quite a few alterations because my yarn or my gauge just turned out to have fewer stitches in to reach the 10 centimeters, and also fewer rows upwards. So I just tried it on and just made small alterations as I went. I feel like it still looks like the original pattern, so the alterations weren't that big. But so it's finished soon. I'm knitting the sleeves at the same time, because I don't know how much yarn, if I have, I can't really finish one sleeve with leftovers if I want a symmetrical sweater or symmetrical sleeves. They didn't have to be symmetrical, but I want them to be symmetrical. So I'm just doing one panel of, knitting the diagram once and then knitting it again for the other sleeve, so that they are the same. Anyway, this project was really fun too, and I really like how just using yarn that I already have in my stash just forces me to put together colors that I wouldn't have thought of in a yarn store, and just forcing me to try out some new things. Actually, when talking about color, I have this one book that is really, really good for colors. It's this one. Dictionary of Color Combinations. It's a Japanese book, and it doesn't really, I couldn't read the Japanese part if I wanted to, but it doesn't even have that much writing really. It's just color combinations like this. Just browsing through this book is really interesting, because to me, there are combinations that I would have never thought of, like, just as an example, like this one, like yellow, orange, purple, and dark green. Like, I wouldn't have seen that one coming, but I can really recommend this book. So I looked to this one as well when putting colors together. So that was kind of unexpected, actually. How fun it is to put colors together in color work. I like that a lot more than knitting scraps or just like knitting a random leftover sweater. That's probably because I'm not really good at it, and I feel like doing like stranded color work with diagrams, it's more organized, and I like that. yeah. And for my next, I'm just putting on my sweater again. It's a bit cold. I finished this pattern, by the way. It's in my Ravelry store, but it's free because I haven't had it test knitted. So, like, I test knitted it in my own size, or I made it in my own size, and the calculations are based off of that. And normally I would have people test knit it before a pattern is released, but I don't have time for that right now. So I just put it out, and then feel free to, if you decide to knit it, give feedback on, bring some feedback on my Ravelry page. It's up in just 3 sizes. Probably in the end of this week it's gonna be done, and then I'm gonna start working on my next project. And I'm not exactly sure which one it's gonna be. I should probably just quickly go through what projects there are in this book. So this is the really nice front page. So first, there's the whole part with Marianne Isager's story about her travels to Chile, Taquile, that's apparently a place. And then first there's a section about her life and her story and where she was in her life when she was influenced by different parts of the world for her pattern designs. And then afterwards there are the sections with the actual patterns. So there's a total of 16 patterns, both like small beanies, but loads of sweaters. I think there is. So 13 sweater patterns out of 16. So the first one is the Taquile Sweater, the one I'm working on. And then the second one is the Pelikan Sweater. I really like it in these dark colors. Looks really good with the blue. Alpaca Sweater with these little alpacas running across it. Let's see. And then here we have the Uganda Sweater. So a lot of books, knitting pattern books, a lot of times there's like maybe 3 sweaters or 2 sweaters, and then there are these smaller garments. I really like how many sweaters are actually in this book. And then the Asante Sana sweater with this 2-stranded colorwork part on the front, the square. And then the Shoowa Sweater. And this, what is this called? Safari Sweater. And I think she went to Greenland and was inspired to do this. These patterns are just interpretations, all the patterns in this book, interpretations of patterns that she did back in the day. So it's all new patterns. This one comes from, I think, whale inspiration, like these stripes. The Inuit sweater, like cable-ish structure. I haven't looked at the pattern. It kind of grows bigger. Waves sweater. Really like this one. I think that's some sort of weave knitting, we call it in Danish, vævstrik, where you only knit with one, I think that is what it is. Knit with one color at a time, and then you drop or you slip some stitches, which create this pattern. Anorak sweater. I know already I'm not gonna be knitting the beanie, but there is directions for just doing a regular neck as well. This is a really cool sweater. It's like it's just, what you call these, like zigzag. I think it would be really cool to knit this in scrap yarn. That's actually a really nice pattern as well. And then this cardigan-y. Ooh, this one is interesting too. It's the same pattern. What's it called? Namaste t-shirt. Lots of details as well. That's general for the whole book. All the patterns have a lot of great detail. So that's it. So this is the first part, her life and how she got the inspiration for the patterns. And then this is just the pattern directions. So the project that I am going to work on next, I think, is either gonna be, let's see. Meep. The projects, they're so different in this book. Like, you can really tell that Marianne Isager, she's a, like, knitting legend, a Danish knitting queen. I think she, I remember my mom knitting her patterns when I was little, and I actually saw projects that looked kind of like this lying around, like many years ago. And she's just been around forever in Denmark in regards to knitting. So, like, Petite Knit is maybe the crown princess of Danish knitting, but Marianne Isager and her daughter Helga Isager, they are the original gang of knitting. And you can really tell that she's been around the block many times. It's some of the projects, they have quite like difficult techniques. I think any technique isn't difficult once you know it. Then it's just another like way of knitting. But the next one I'm gonna make, I think, is gonna be the Pelikan Sweater. So the pattern asks for the Alpaca 3, Isager Alpaca 3. Yeah, Isager also owns a yarn company, so she's both a knitting legend and she owns a yarn company and publishes books and whatnot. But yeah, she's cool. Petite Knit Celeste mittens. When talking about the sun, it shines. But I have this sweater that I have knitted over and over again, and it just never turns out nice. So it's gonna become something different, and it's in the Isager Alpaca 3. So this gray will function as the base color for this sweater, I think. And then I have just a million leftovers, like this bluish. I actually like the dark version better. It's the one on the front cover. The black and then the blue. I really like that. Looks nice. But I don't have that much yarn of any of the dark colors. So it's gonna be light gray. So I think I'll do that, and then these, is it pelicans? That's probably why it's called the Pelikan Sweater. And then these pelicans and this zigzag pattern is gonna be probably many different colors. Like, I think I'll probably mostly use blues. This is from the Danish brand Guld. So it's Guld. It's because it's a little word puzzle, because wool in Danish is ULD, uld, and GULD is gold. So it's like adding a G to wool and then it becomes gold. Yeah, they I don't know if that came through right, but they color yarn with plants and they do amazing colors. And I've knitted like a few Fair Isle projects with their yarns, and I think when you have yarns that are colored with plants, all the colors go together. Like it's almost magic. Because when you go into a yarn store, there are always colors that hate each other, where it just looks not good. But plant-dyed yarn always look good together. Like this color, greenish, and this reddish, like it just looks good. So I think those will be look good on the gray. Who knows? Maybe it will look horrible, but we'll see. It's kind of exciting too. And maybe I'll throw some mohair in the mix as well. And this like light pink, also colored with plants. Like they just look amazing together. And this one is colored with plants too. Like they're so different, these colors, but they look great together. Anyway, so I am either gonna be doing this Pelikan sweater, or I have what I'm mostly embarrassed about is actually not the amount of yarn. This is like half of my yarn, and I feel like a lot of people, they have a lot more yarn lying around. So I'm not going into that. Like, collecting yarn is not necessarily a bad thing. But I'm more embarrassed about all the projects that I started doing and then decided to put aside. So this is a project I did years ago, and I just don't like it. I finished it and then I unraveled it, and then so part of it is rolled up in balls again. It's a really nice yarn. It's mohair, from silk mohair. I can't remember from where. And then Isager tweed in beige. So this is wool and 30% mohair. So it's it's a really nice yarn, and it's so soft. Like it's really nice. And also the color is just too, like it's so boring. It's really boring. So I think this yarn is going to be made into, let's see, this sweater. The Asante Sana. I feel like that's a saying from Lion King, the movie. Asante Sana. But I can't remember. I'm not sure. I really like, you can't really tell. I'll show you close up. But the neck is quite different. And then I like this. You can see it up close here. So it is basically just two stranded color knitting. Where some of the stitches are purled instead of knitted. For instance, a sort of red would be good. Like this. I don't think I have more of this than this one, but something like this. For contrast. Like I would move the panels of the color work. I wouldn't have it be like a square section on the body. I think I would move it towards the bottom of the sweater. But I'm not sure I'm not sure yet. I need to knit some swatches. So I have those two projects that I actually look really forward to get started with. And then I have like it could also be, I'm really fortunate to come from a family where a lot of people knit. So my mom knits, and my sister, and just a lot of people really like wool or weaving or making yarn. My mom makes yarn too. Like she made this one, for instance. I think it's like bamboo, like hand dyed. Would look really nice or interesting too, to have this be the base color and then have some stranded color work in this color, or even like mix it with the red. Like during this process, I feel like I really enjoy the process, but it's gonna be interesting to see how wearable all of the projects actually are when I'm done. I guess the wearability is really up to just me, but I've done a lot of just these kinds of sweaters in the past, just a regular neck and stockinette stitch body, and there's nothing wrong with that. I just, I found that when I have a lot of things going on, when I'm really busy and I with work and whatnot, it's just, for me, it's really nice to wind down with a really difficult knitting project, with color work or with a new technique or whatever. So my mind is just filled with that project, because then I can't really think about anything else, and it's not like I'm living an unnecessarily rough life, but it's just, I feel like it's just really nice, and it just gives nice off time, I feel like, for my brain too, because oftentimes I can't watch TV when I'm knitting this sweater. Also, I'm learning to hold 2 strands still at a time. I've been dropping the yarn, but I'm kind of forcing myself to try and learn to hold the 2 yarns, because it is easier and it's faster too, and it's a smoother process. But so I don't know when I'm gonna go back to just making stockinette stitch sweaters. I don't know. Doesn't really matter, does it? But for now, I'm really enjoying these patterns that are different and have different techniques to them. And if you're looking for patterns that have a number of techniques and just look different, I can definitely recommend this book. And as I said in just the explanation of the book, it has a part about Marianne Isager's life first, and like how knitting relates to her life and where she was in her life when she made A, B, and C pattern. And I feel like it's quite a good read, actually. I enjoyed reading it. I also was given the 3rd volume. I was not planning to elaborate on this, but I was given the 3rd volume for this Christmas. The other one I was given last year for Christmas, but it's just been sitting around. And the second one focuses on a part of her life where she was in Nepal, Latin America, and Greenland. And the 3rd one, she falls in love with a man who lives in Japan. And so it evolves around her life in Japan, and how her patterns became influenced by Japanese culture and just whatever she experienced down there. I haven't made a single pattern from this book yet, but I read her life story part. It was a good read. I think if she ever thought of doing more books, she could. I think she's a good storyteller, Or maybe it's just because it's about knitting and I really like knitting. Maybe. But it was a really enjoyable read. And I like her patterns. I think one of the things that make her a really skilled pattern maker is the way that the patterns fall on the bodies. Like, I have made a couple of her patterns in the past, and they are roomy without being boxy, and they're just, and she has like very different necklines. It's not just V-neck or crew neck. She changes it up quite a bit. Now I'm starting to read this book. Maybe I'll do a part 2. Maybe I'll never finish this one. Anyway, I'm hoping to get somewhere on this project, and then next time maybe I'll have started on the Asante Sana sweater, or maybe I'll have started on the other grey one, or the one that I'm planning to make in grey. I am done sorting out my yarn. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you want to follow my journey knitting through all of this yarn that I have lying around. I'm looking forward to it.